Okay friends, we are back in Procreate on the iPad today so I can walk you through 3 reasons to put your colour on a separate layer to your outline.
Hi, I'm Hayley, Chief Doodler at Thoughts Drawn Out. I'm all about getting creativity working so I can help you to make your mark.
Now, drop colour is an option on Procreate. Let me quickly show you. If you wanted to colour in this shirt and you wanted to make it a nice salmon pink, you could drag that colour over and drop it into that collar, and that looks lovely. But the challenge is you have to have completely closed in shapes to do that. So if I want to colour in just those little corners, the back there of the collar, and I wanted to make that slightly darker, I can't do that now without colouring in that whole area because I haven't closed out those little spaces between the shirt and the neck. So in order to drop colour, same with the shirt itself, if I come back to that same colour, I can't drop fill that shirt because it's open at the bottom and it's going to flood colour through the entire page. So drop colour limits you to a particular style of outline where everything is perfectly closed up. Sometimes that's not a problem, but sometimes you want to have that freer, more sketchy style to your line work. You want it to have a little bit of openness to it, and therefore drop colour is just not going to suit. So what I like to do is leave that outline on one layer. I'm going to start a second layer. I'm going to come in underneath. I will often, depending on the size of what I'm colouring in, I might stick with my same inking pen, or I might come down to just a round paintbrush. That's what I'm going to use now. And I'm going to get a base layer of colour in. Now I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to do this quickly so that you can watch it happen a lot faster, because the real magic of this video is what comes once that base colour is in place. Okay, so now I have all of the base colour in my design. Now you will have noticed when I coloured in that shirt, I still drew the shape of the shirt in blue and then drop coloured it. So you can do all of that in that style. You can go around the inside of the outline and then drop fill the colour into the new coloured outline that you've just made, or you can just go through and colour it in. Depending on the size of the space will affect which one I do there. But you can see how now the colour fills in, but you can have these really nice little moments here in the hair where the outline isn't so solid, but the colour is still there as a block colour underneath, and it just has a little bit of life to it, in my opinion. So I can show you what that looks like now. The outline is on the top layer, the colour is on the bottom. So if I turn that outline off for a minute, this is the colour that I'm left with underneath. And what that means is we can now do a couple of things. So I talked about 3 reasons why you want to do your colour on a separate layer. The first we've spoken to, it's so you can have that sketchier line style and still have blocks of colour, so separating the connection between those two. The second one is your ability to quickly change your mind about something. So sometimes I find if I'm creating a bunch of characters for a particular artwork, and I really want to make sure at the end that I've got a nice diverse representation of people. If I'm representing a particular workforce for an organisation, for example, and I might come through and say, I really want to make sure I've got some characters in there with grey or white hair, because I want to make sure that I'm representing all ages within the workforce. So other than any other particular changes I might do to what the person looks like, it could be as simple as going, okay, I want to get a grey colour and I want to change that hair colour. There we go. So I could still have done that when I drop colour. The challenge is when you do drop colouring into colour on the same layer as your outline, quite often you will get the bar across the top where you have to play with the limits of that drop fill to bring it back out of changing the colour of the outline itself. And I just find that fiddly and annoying, especially if I'm trying to do something quickly, whereas if it's on a layer underneath, it's much simpler. So that was just simple drop fill into that hair colour and boom. I now have a different looking character. Same way if I'd drawn this character once, but then I wanted to make multiple versions of this character and just edit some of those features, it's a simpler way to do that. Now, the final thing that you get from having this color on a separate layer is your ability to add those extra little details like textures, shadowing, highlighting, that sort of thing. And I find that much faster and simpler to do when we're on a separate layer. So what I do is I come through and I turn on alpha lock for that layer. What that means is anything I now add onto that layer will only add where there is already content. So if there's not already content there, I won't be able to draw there. So it's just going to limit where the texture can fall, for example. Now, I might want to come through and choose a watercolor effect, for example. I might want to get, say, a brush like that, and I might want to just give some texture to that shirt. I might want to just kind of come around the edges and use that to create some shadowing. So one quick and easy way to do that. Now, I was just running my stylus very roughly along the edges there and kind of not worrying about whether I went outside the space because the alpha lock's going to do that for me. So if I undo that, how I will often use this is with the airbrush. I like to use that soft airbrush, not too big, turn the opacity right down. I like to pick the color that the item already is, in this instance the shirt, and then just come in a little bit darker. And then I will run that airbrush where the shadow would be. So underneath that collar, along the edge, into that armpit space, potentially that pocket. And it's just a very subtle shading that I've added just to give a little bit of depth to that character. So I might do that with the skin tone as well. So if I grab the color, come in and go just a little bit darker. Now, remember, I'm just on this color layer, so it's not going to affect my outline. So I can trace my stylus around that line, and it's not going to go onto the line itself. It will only affect the color. So I can run it around the edge of that hairline and add a very subtle shadow to the face. I've got the opacity turned quite far down. So if I wanted to add another layer now, I might turn the opacity up, the size down, and come in again and just layer in. Make that a little bit stronger. I might do that entire kind of shadow under the chin in that way. Okay. And then similarly, I might grab the grey of the hair. I might come down a little bit darker to come in underneath some of those lines, particularly in here into this area that would be quite shadowed in around the neck. And I'm not having to be precise with the stylus because that alpha lock is on. It's going to restrict the placement of this color to where there is already color. So just adding some texture like that. I might come back through, grab that original grey and then come up a little bit to now add a few highlights in the same way. Just going to pick where I feel like the light might reflect off. And there we have it, just some very gentle shadowing and highlighting onto that block color, and it's kept it all on our color layer, and we have a nice strong black cartoon outline still sitting on top. So there we have it, our 3 reasons to put your color on a separate layer to your outline. 1, you can have a freer, more sketchy line style and still block color. 2, you have the ability to change your mind quickly and in a less fiddly way. If you want to change the color of an item or a hair color, shirt, that sort of thing, you can do that very fast and not compromise your beautiful black cartoon outline. And then finally, you can then alpha lock your color layer and use other brushes like watercolor brushes or airbrushes or any other texture brush for that matter to add some shadowing and highlighting or even just depth and texture to your picture, which just brings them to life that little bit more. Now, I really hope you found this video useful. If you have, please give it a like. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, please do that now so you don't miss any future visual note-taking videos. If you've got something, a question burning in mind that you would like me to address, please let me know in the comments below because I can include it in a future video. Now friends, we have reached the end, so you know what that means. It's time for you to go out there and make your mark.